So right now it's really just an initiative to try to build community, to try to rally people around this idea that there is room at the table for humanities and liberal arts grads. It's not humanities versus STEM. It's humanities and STEM, and like we need to learn from each other. And I try to present that with a practical edge. It's one thing to say like, oh, let's all come together and hug and high five, and that's great. But also like, here's why it's smart for your career. Here's how you can keep learning. Here's how you can get more money for for yourself. Very practical angles as well.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the yet another episode of Career Talks by Ontology of Value. And today we have a great guest, Andrew Webb. Thank you so much, Andrew, for accepting the invitation, and great to have you. Can you please introduce yourself to the audience and tell us briefly what your background story is and how did you find yourself in the place where you're today?
Yeah, thank you so much, Natalia. I appreciate you having me on the show. So I guess my story begins after completing my master's. I did a bachelor's in history and then a master's, thinking I wanted to go into academia. My own father taught history for 40 years. He loved it. He was a very happy man. And I thought, I think I want that for myself. So I went to grad school. And I have to say, I was disillusioned pretty quickly. But I first realized I probably wasn't going to continue on that path when one of my professors actually dedicated part of a week's reading to articles that really discussed how careers were shrinking in academia, at least for the humanities, and also how a lot of national funding bodies get very skewed towards STEM disciplines, which is a separate discussion. But for all intents and purposes, though, it's a smaller pool for the discipline that I was in. So, my eyes opened up a bit wider, and I thought, well, I need another plan. This is not going to work. Statistically, not even one person from my class will probably continue in academia. One person did. So I decided to, I guess, just try to find any opportunity I could to build up more practical, job ready / job applicable skills. And I ended up getting a job in a startup publishing house in my city right after grad school. Kind of funny. I moved back to my home 2 hours away, and then it turns out this company had lost my application, so then I moved back within 2 weeks. So that was fun. But then I just realized that the humanities really were not valued outside of academia very much. Even though tons of people have these humanities degrees or liberal arts, I mean, psychology, sociology, history, philosophy, English, a lot of communication-based degrees. In sociology and psychology's case, maybe working more with statistics and probabilities and those kinds of studies. But my boss, it turned out, was an engineer, and all of his clients mostly were engineers. None of them really liked what we had to offer, which was interesting because I found that the humanities grads in that business, myself included, often had the critical thinking skills to say, that idea is not going to work, or this idea could work with fixes, or if you change the idea a little bit. And that's when I really first started realizing, maybe I think there's more to this debate than meets the eye. Are the humanities, are the liberal arts useless? So it goes. There are a lot of talking heads out there who will say so. There's a famous quote by a former Floridian governor who said like, "Oh yeah, that's great, but you're going to be working in a Chick-fil-A for the rest of your life." So I started developing a bit of a chip on my shoulder, pretty naturally. When part of the world says, your background or your way of life is useless, you want to prove yourself, right? So I had this drive to prove myself in the workplace for many years. But that's when I just decided, I want to do something. I want to start some sort of publication or something to do this. But I didn't feel I was quite ready or qualified yet. That same boss and I parted ways, and I ended up freelancing and looking for a new home. That took a long time, being a recent graduate. So I landed in a digital marketing agency, and I realized that was probably the place for me. I never thought of myself as a marketer, but it turns out not a lot of people in that company had developed writing skills, communication skills. They hadn't spent a lot of time leading discussions and navigating like vague or open-ended, sometimes hairy questions or issues, and how to bring people together. And all this stuff can be learned by anyone, but I don't think it's inaccessible to STEM students by any means, but as a humanities grad, I had spent enough time practicing that employers started saying, "Oh, hey, yeah, that's actually pretty useful. Maybe we should promote that guy or something." So, that's when it started clicking for me. Yeah, that's the early story. And then I started outpacing a lot of people that I worked with. Not everyone. Some people are like harder working, smarter than I will ever be, and I love them. I learn so much from them every day. But it showed me that there was very clearly a place for humanities and liberal arts grads, as long as you're willing to keep learning and to treat your education really as a starting point, not an end point or even a midpoint, really. Like it's the start of something new. It's foundational stuff, a lot of soft skills, but you can apply that to so many different scenarios, job description, whatever it is, really. So that's the Cliff Notes version of how I got to know.
Ontology of Value, we help professionals with developing their potential, building value, and navigating towards their dream careers. We offer intensive career orientation courses combining self-discovery with practical information about the job market. We also work on our own educational materials such as books and self-navigation manuals. Our new tool, the Ontology of Value test, will help you discover what your natural way of creating value in the job market is and which working environment fits you best. If you'd like to stay in touch with us and receive monthly updates, please subscribe to the newsletter. Okay. And very interesting. And actually, I already have a few questions for you.
Yeah. So
one is maybe provocative, but why not?
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, exactly. So my first question would be, what do you think humanities grads might be actually better at than STEM grads?
Going right for the money. Yeah, the first ones that usually come to mind are, and again, these are not set in stone. These are not inaccessible to other disciplines. But I find that humanities grads out the door are usually more comfortable with writing, with qualitative research, with dealing with ambiguous situations, which sound like you can't really put that on a resume because like someone's going to read that and say like, what even is that? But it really does help when you're navigating interpersonal relationships, clients, leading teams, and I find that is usually the core set of skills. There is also something else called information literacy, which has been mentioned a bit in some studies by the Association of American Colleges and Universities. Something that it's just the ability to adopt new fields of study and vocabulary not at a particularly deep level, but in a way that you can really grapple with them conceptually and really start, connecting the dots between all of these different fields. And really, it's kind of being a generalist in many ways and understanding the connections between fields and between specialists and trying to translate that to common vernacular. And I have found that that has been a very powerful tool for me, at least in my career journey. So I would say those are probably the core skills that set humanities students aside. If they showed up to class, if they did the homework, if they participated, you can also sit at the back of the class, do nothing, get a C, get your piece of paper, and you're really better off. But, if you take it seriously, you'll probably emerge with those skills.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I fully agree. I think it's great times for jacks of all trades. And that's also why I chose to launch a company at some point, because I felt, okay, I was trained for becoming a specialist for so many years, but I don't really feel like a specialist. I want to dig into so many different problems and just juggle tasks, and I'm all around the place. I will never be a specialist just because it's not my mindset. And I think if you're a person like this, and you actually like to leak different topics and try to understand the society, the culture, then there is a lot of room for you in business. And also today there are so many options, even together with the development of Web3 and like decentralized internet, there are so many new communities where the bare fact that you have understanding of culture, of people, of how people communicate in different ways, that's already a big advantage. Because actually, and last week I was even running a little poll on LinkedIn and asked who will be the most successful, more successful professional in the long term. Is it going to be a content creator, or is it going to be a community manager? And 2/3 of the participants said community manager.
I think I voted for that as well. Community manager. Yeah.
And I think it has lots to do. So to launch a successful project online and a successful community, it's good if you build a culture and if you build a community, because and the content creator is someone who builds a culture, so some new content, new insight, new thoughts, new ideas. But the community manager is someone who can effectively commercialize that culture, because to actually, culture is something like a gas in a room. If you want people to inhale your gas for money, you have to have a room and close the door and put someone on the front door to collect the money, right? So this is the community manager. So actually both are important, both are necessary, but I think, and actually in humanities, you can also do both. You can be a content creator and you can be a community manager, I think, effectively. So there are so many new jobs that are suitable for humanities graduates, absolutely. And also, I have another question. Since you mentioned that, well, maybe as a humanities grad, maybe you don't have all that much to do with numbers, with mathematics, but there's so much qualitative research as well, right? Like it's not that every research is quantitative. Like that was also shocking to me when I first went to business, and I noticed that so many projects are like not even oriented at statistics at all. Like research, research can mean so many different things, right? Research can also be a field research where you basically do informational interviews and collect information and test sentiment in many ways. That's not quantitative really. So I think as a humanities grad, you also have a lot of value to add, analyzing problems where statistics doesn't apply, right? Maybe you also have some ideas about that. There are so many different disciplines where qualitative research is the preferred method, and so many humanities grads might possibly be interested in that. Maybe we should write a piece together at some point, and maybe we should just put ideas together and write an article or so, just listing the ideas for humanities graduate. But actually what I like about your LinkedIn activity is that you use a lot of data for like humanities. You use a lot of quantitative information about the job market. So I love it. So what is your source of information? How do you find all this interesting stats?
Thanks. Yeah. Well, first, I should say that I actually wish that I had learned more about quantitative research when I was in college. So I've been playing catch up, and I think until colleges start nudging students or even pushing them a bit more forcefully toward that, uh, grads in the humanities will probably just have to play catch up on their own. I think you have to know your way around a spreadsheet in the working world, at least a little bit. Um, but in talking about my sources, I've come across a few, but really over like that I really keep coming back to. But I often just bookmark things that I come across in my LinkedIn feed or just while I'm searching. For example, ZipRecruiter just released a study, I think a few days ago or a week ago, and they have, they have like the top 12 soft skills that employers want to see, like all this kind of cool stuff. So I keep an eye out for things like that. But the stuff that I've been posting on LinkedIn, the pie charts, the bar charts, I would say I really rely on the Bureau of Labor Statistics in the United States. They have a fantastic set of resources that really shows job outlook for certain career paths. And for particular disciplines, they also have some really great profiles on English majors, history majors, philosophy, religious studies / theology. There are a few I'm missing, I know, but and they'll actually show, here's the gender breakdown of applicants or graduates, I should say. Here are the top 5 or 10 positions that people hold, or the top 5 areas, library sciences, administration, business, like that kind of thing. So I've really tried to lean on that just to say, hey, look, like this is not just me shouting into the wind. There's real data here that says, you may not make as much money as a computer scientist or a nurse. That's okay. But if you love what you're doing, you can be an author, you can be a ghostwriter, you can be a teacher. I'm not sure if administration, I'm not sure if anyone says like, when I grow up, I want to be an administrator, but like it can still be a very helpful, fulfilling job, even if it's not like being an astronaut, right? And of course, work is not everything. So, you can still use that to sustain yourself or family or what, dependents, whatever you might need. So I'd say that, yeah, I really tried to point to that just to get people to see like it's not just an opinion, it's it's a substantiated opinion, it's reality in many ways. So
yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
That's a great approach. I maybe I should be more systematic about it, because maybe it's also the form of allergy I developed, after spending 15 years studying STEM sciences and then doing PhD. Like I'm so allergic to all these graphs, and I just sometimes I just like the storytelling more, just because it's just so much more relaxing to just hear the story rather than read the data. But of course, it's like absolutely true what you're saying. If you have like the data, you have the ground truth about the job market. So that's exactly what you should be looking for. So that's great. Okay, so let me ask you a little bit about thinking about grads in humanities. Like let's imagine that you're just coming towards the end of your PhD. Let's say you're like halfway, and you start slowly thinking about what to do next. What do you think? Like, what would you advise people in that situation? Like, would it be wiser to start looking for sidekick activities to strengthen your portfolio, or maybe and give yourself like first chances for employment, or maybe what you would do is to take care of your personal brand more, or like what would you do if you were in such a situation?
that's a great question. So in that scenario, I would say that everything you listed is important, but it would probably be more productive to think about the order in which this student tackles those. So, for example, personal branding, you and I both know, is very important, but before you start amplifying yourself and your image to the world, it probably would help to start selecting and cultivating a few good projects, understanding what it is, as a student, like if I'm going to be entering the job market in the next, say, 3 years, what do I want to be known for? And then working back from that, I would say try to tailor any on-campus activities or assignments or projects you might take on to see if you can nudge them a bit toward a more marketable angle. For example, maybe you could condense part of, like if you're an English grad, say, you could condense part of your thesis into maybe a series of blog posts or maybe a long form submission, or even just hop on Medium, build a portfolio out of it, show people what you're capable of writing, what you're capable of thinking. If you're a history grad, you might be able to do maybe some like kind of interactive Prezi presentations to really show that like you've really uncovered something with your detective skills and your analytic skills. But other than that, yeah, I would also start taking on some side hustle jobs as well. I'm a big advocate of that, and I know that there is also a debate where some people say, well, hustle culture is kind of exclusionary because I don't have, this person and this person, they don't have time to go pursue that. They might have other responsibilities. I don't have an answer for that. At the end of the day, people need to carve out advantages for themselves. So, maybe it makes more sense to just carve out half an hour a day. If you only have 20 or 30 minutes a day, maybe it just means that you make those projects for yourself at a slower pace, but at the end of those 3 years, say when that PhD student graduates and they decide they're not going to continue in academia, or they need something to sustain themselves while they, try to get there, they should probably have, 3 or 4 projects under their belt, a portfolio website, some testimonials from the people they worked with, plastered right on LinkedIn, right on their portfolio site, references available upon request. No, put that front and center. Let people know that you've got the skills, you've got the work ethic, and really be able to talk about your discipline and your own narrative, not too long, maybe a page tops, about, how you took this professional journey from your PhD. What kind of community building did you do? Like, how did you apply that in the real world, or what gets you to bed to do that? And, you start looking like a fairly competitive, appealing candidate. You've got a story, you've got the motivation, you've got the skills. You're not really waiting for anyone's permission. That's a very employable kind of candidate. So I think if a PhD student sets aside some time to do that and to prepare those things in advance, then when you start promoting yourself, when you start making connections, people will remember you as like, oh yeah, not that like English or history or philosophy grad who was kind of down on their luck. Like, I don't know how I can help them. They'll be, oh yeah, it was that person who was like at that festival and they helped that group of people do that thing. Oh yeah, and they were featured on that publication that they picked up the story. That was really cool. Yeah, I think that person's going places. So, it's a fictitious story we've just crafted here, but
right.
you've probably seen elements of that in your own story and mine and people and I think that's where success really lies when you're exiting academia, at least.
Absolutely. And I have to say that I coach quite a lot, and like one thing that comes back over and over again is that so many people, they just have absolutely zero online presence, and like they are so apt and skilled at like very hard technical problems, like top-notch cutting edge skills in laboratory work and programming skills and some high advanced mathematics, but at the same time zero ability to even talk about what they do on LinkedIn or create a very simple landing page, or even say anything about themselves on social media, and just they are just invisible. Like if you're not online, you don't exist. Like we live in the times where like what you are online is what you are, like to at least to recruiters and employers. So
Yep.
if you take care of your presence early enough, then you can also get advantage over a lot of people who might even know more, have more experience, but they will just be nowhere to find. And even if they apply and your like online presence is stronger, you could still snatch a position just because you're more trustworthy, because the trust is the currency of the future. And the more visible online you are, the more accountability you have, and the more accountability you have, the more you're trustworthy to the employers. So I couldn't agree
Agreed.
more. You have to take care of this as soon as you can, and that's probably the, I wouldn't say winning strategy because there is none, but probably your optimal approach. Yes. And okay, I'd like to ask you more about. I mean, I understand your motivation already, but like, what do you do? What kind of people you work with? Who might be potentially like the right person to knock at your door, and what your plans are?
Yeah. So I guess I wasn't sure exactly what shape I wanted the employed historian to take when I started, except I knew I wanted a website. I wanted my own home base to talk about these ideas. So at first, I made it a blog, and there's lots of content on there. I think about 80 or 90 posts. Some of them are statistics pages, some of them are essays backed by statistics. Is college still worth it? Are the liberal arts truly useless? Why is it new grads can't get a job after college? All of these questions that really bugged me when I was younger and starting out my career. But I would say what I do is really I try to produce content in any form, whether it's on a blog, LinkedIn, hopefully a podcast soon, but we'll see. And really, I want to teach people how to start taking care of themselves and their own careers. So right now, I actually don't do any consulting officially. I just help some people for free if they reach out. And I try to connect them with opportunities, with learning resources, places to earn certificates, ways to get their foot in the door, advice on portfolio websites, how to position themselves, that kind of thing. So right now it's really just an initiative to try to build community, to try to rally people around this idea that there is room at the table for humanities and liberal arts grads. It's not humanities versus STEM. It's humanities and STEM, and like we need to learn from each other. And I try to present that with a practical edge. It's one thing to say like, oh, let's all come together and hug and high five, and that's great. But also like, here's why it's smart for your career. Here's how you can keep learning. Here's how you can get more money for for yourself. Very practical angles as well. So yeah, the motivation is just it's to help my past self. Really, I don't want other people to go through 9 months of unemployment and depression like I did, because that was awful. 10 out of 10 would not recommend it at all. So yeah, I want to equip people to navigate the world of work, present and future. In the future, maybe I'll do consulting if there's interest and demand for it, but really I'd like to show people how to do it themselves, especially for new grads who really can't afford consultants,
Right. Yeah. Well, that's very noble. Although I have to say, honestly, that's also something like my own mistake that I was doing. Initially, I always have that tendency to give away my work for free. Actually, people who work with me, they have to spank me every time because I would just throw it to the left and to the right. I'm like, I'm the last person ever to ask for money, so like they always have to yell at me for that. Like my subcontractors, they have to put me in place because otherwise we would make nothing at all. But now I also learned, like in the process, that people also often they don't value and appreciate enough what they get for free. So sometimes charging someone, you actually help them because they listened and they start listening. And I can see that also from workshops. I used to invite some of my friends because I knew that they they were in the need to get help with their careers. And actually at the moment we have like vacation breaks, so no workshop at the moment. We're starting in October, but I used to run many editions of these workshops online, and sometimes I could see the difference how people behave, those who paid the full price and those who came there on their like supervisor's budget, and those who actually paid nothing because I invited them as friends. And the last group, they were like not motivated at all. They were just not doing any homeworks, just disappearing from classes often. They were just they didn't benefit in almost any way from this course. They didn't learn almost anything. And those who actually paid the full price were the most determined. They wanted to shake out all the knowledge till the last bit of information. They were doing all the homeworks. They were asking a lot of questions. Then they were finding the jobs as first ones. So it's actually also when you charge someone, it's commitment on both sides. It's also commitment for them, and sometimes you make them more money just because you ask for it first. So now I think different. I see that I make people I make them a favor when I ask for the money. So I actually now this is my thinking. So I would highly encourage you to not spoil the market and not do consultancy for free, because it's just it really works this way. So okay, cool. I guess I can link your project somewhere here at under the episode. So if someone is interested in talking to Andrew, you can find Andrew easily. This is very modest approach on you, but I mean, I have to be your speaker then. If someone doesn't want to pay, like send them to me, and then I talk to them. No, it's seriously, it's really important that at some point
I'm on the same page. Yeah. I had on my website, I had a 7-step roadmap on how to find a job for free. I saw through my web analytics that no one finished it. So I turned it into an ebook, and I do sell that on my website. I don't push it particularly hard just because right now I'm more interested in building the community, meeting people like you, in particular, like-minded people who get it, but if you want to pay $30, it's there, and it walks you through what you can do as a new humanities grad. So I very much agree, though. The money attaches value to the knowledge and to the wisdom, and that's when people take it seriously.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Right. Okay. So it's like, is there any piece of advice that you could give to our viewers who are now, wondering what to do next?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing is, don't wait to get started. Don't ask for permission. Don't wait for someone to give you a job so that you can get experience. That's unfortunately not how it works these days. Employers they don't want to bother training people, which sucks, but most, I should say. But start a project, make a portfolio site, volunteer. Even there are a million small businesses or NGOs or just volunteer groups out there who could really use some help. Make a portfolio project out of it. Get some testimonials and some references. You will be leagues ahead of a lot of other people who are just entering the job market. And honestly, I look better on paper than some industry veterans of 20 years because I actually take my portfolio and my LinkedIn profile seriously. So, as a new humanities grad, you can do that too. And you can do it in a pretty short amount of time. Mm-hmm. But I guess what I would actually love to hear from you is, as someone with a STEM background, what is it that you wish humanities and liberal arts students or graduates knew? Like, what is it that they just don't understand, even if it's maybe a little bit painful for them to hear, that would just make life so much better for everyone in the workplace.
Right. Good questions. I think there are like two things. One is sweet, one is bitter. So
Fair.
let's start with the bitter one. I was like also good with literature at high school, and I had a dilemma where to go to study. I could as well go to study literature, but in the end, I chose for physics and psychology. But I still like now I write books for a living, so I'm still like I feel like I could do anything, and I just happened to choose for STEM sciences, but I also still have a lot of friends who do humanities, and I almost ended up doing humanities. So I feel like just interacting with these people, I feel like they sometimes overvalue the personality part and the like personal brand. I mean, it's great to have it, but you have to have substance behind it. You have to have like some hard skill in your hand next to it. So yes, there is Joe Rogan out there, and there are a few people who are famous because they are really like outspoken people who are wise, and then basically made a brand out of it, and like their personal brand is strong enough to carry them throughout their careers. But for most part, like most people, to get anywhere, they have to have some hard skill. They have to build something with their hands, or just there must be something. Even if it's a ability to write, then you have to take care of your craft. Like because I think especially young people today, I think they often feel like there is this. I don't know if you have the same feeling, but I feel that there's this rhetorics in public space that we are like snowflakes, we are unique, and you are unique. You just be yourself, right? Be yourself. Everything's gonna be fine. You just have to be consequent, show yourself, show who you really are. And then sometimes people feel like, yeah, I mean, maybe I'm not a mathematician, I'm not a builder, I'm not an architect, I'm not a computer scientist, but I'm myself, right? And being myself, I will get somewhere. But like being yourself is one thing, and like what kind of problems can you solve? Like even writing, but good writing, like informational or funny or like something that the quality that you put in it, it has to be a craft, and there must be some quality to it. So sometimes
I agree.
like, yeah, this is missing. So just like they just fall for this false rhetoric. So that's one thing that I like to tell the humanities students. And second thing is more positive, that being sometimes I have a feeling that there is like misconception of how hard it is to learn computer science or mathematics or software development. And I know so many people who never had like even good maths at school, and they learned because they were interested. And even like in adult life, in 30s or even 40s, they were just curious, so they started courses online and they learned it. And it's not as hard as you might think. It's just it requires logic thinking. And actually most humanities graduates that I know are perfect. Like their logic is perfect. Like it's impeccable. Like they are intelligent people, and you can just learn anytime. It's not that there is a wall between you and this like numbers world. It's just a matter of like, if you have a will to do it, it's a matter of willpower. You have to find time for it, focus, and you can learn it anytime. So it's not that there's this invisible glass between you and the STEM sciences and the rest of the world. It's just your choice how you want to spend your time. And at any age you can learn. If you want to just learn a programming language just because you want to learn, or because you feel like it's useful, you can do it. It's not that you don't have a diploma in STEM sciences, so there is any barrier. There is none.
I love that. And I agree. Like, and it's so easy to get started today. Like, you can just buy a $30 course on Coursera, Udemy, like anywhere. Just get started. You don't have to take a $500 university course to see if you like it. You can spend, you know what? Wait till Black Friday. All of those courses are on sale for like $15. Truly, like I bought a few, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I bought a mega pack of 9 courses. It had CSS, Python, Java, like 2 JavaScript courses, $40, and like 5 I just forgot about. I don't remember what they are. And they're just people who have been in the industry who teach it, and they're not always the best teachers, but at that price point, like, who cares, right?
Yeah,
But
exactly. Who
yeah,
cares?
there's another interesting point, though, just to build on what you're saying, that humanities grads don't have to feel like they're cut off from the technical side of the world. There was a study maybe a couple years ago that actually found that students learning Python were more successful if they had strong language skills. And they tested the variability. I think 70% was just general cognition power, but that other 30%, give or take, had a lot of variability. Only mathematics ability only accounted for 2%, they found, whereas I think language skills was closer to 12 or 15% out of that 30.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, first of all, like, if math only accounts for this tiny sliver, then should we not maybe just have a culture of everyone at least trying it out, right? Yeah. But if there are a lot of jobs out there that really want to mix. They require mixing soft skills and technical skills. I mean, I'm in digital marketing and user experience, where both, it's never more true than here. And it's very much worth your while if you're a humanities student or a liberal arts student. And honestly, even just being able to navigate the basics, even if you're not an expert, just knowing the basics of good writing, the basics of some front end code, the basics of some statistical analysis, like it can take you quite far.
Absolutely.
So I love everything you're saying here. Like, it just try it out, get started, explore new things, be willing to fail a little bit, be willing to look a little bit silly as you learn, get over yourself. Like, there's nowhere you can't go.
Right. And at the end of the day, programming language is a language as well. It's just that it's a bit more formalized than human language, because to communicate with the machine, they don't get your sense of humor and your hints. So you have to be really like talking to, like literally, like, you're talking to a machine. So don't be like, you have to be very concrete because otherwise it would just not follow what you're saying, and that's it. And that's, at the end of the day, you can even improve on your ways of communicating with people, because you have to be very, very specific about every detail of what you want, and then you will get it. Once you say like very precisely what you want, it will do what you want. So people work the same way. That's also my finding, that the more precise I am with telling them exactly what I expect, and very like, and why and how, then I usually get it. So that was also something, good realization from learning programming.
I
Okay.
love that.
Yeah.
That's such a great insight.
Yeah. So I would expect from you, by the way, that I hope we stay in touch, because I love your approach, and I like that you're so like data driven in your odyssey of like through the job market for humanities, a few humanities students. And then I totally understand, like, you just started from like heuristics, right? Let's just do like get into the subject, and then let's see where it goes. So I will be observing where it goes for you, and I hope I can help you as well, and that we stay in touch. And if you okay, so I think we are slowly coming up to the end of this episode. So if there's anything extra you'd like to add, then please say now, or yeah, or never. And
I think we covered it pretty well.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching this episode. I hope you feel uplifted, encouraged, not discouraged after watching this. And obviously, Andrew is there for you. And I will put links to contact links to him and his website down below. So please check it out. And thank you so much for watching, for coming to the end of this episode. Of course, please don't forget to like and subscribe, because I also need it from you guys. And thank you. Good luck, and see you next time.